In the remote village of Black Hollow, the air carried whispers of an ancient legend, a choir of the dead that sang beneath the earth. No one dared disturb the ruins of the old chapel, where bones lay arranged in unnatural patterns, and melodies of sorrow could sometimes be heard in the wind. When archaeologist Daniel Mercer arrives to investigate, he finds himself ensnared in a horror beyond comprehension. For centuries, the villagers of Black Hollow had feared the Bone Choir, a cursed entity said to trap the souls of those who listened. The ruined chapel had once been home to a secretive order of monks, their hymns meant to keep something buried beneath the earth. Daniel, drawn by both curiosity and skepticism, dismissed the tales as mere folklore. But as he delved deeper into the mystery, he found that some songs are never meant to be heard by the living. Daniel arrives in Black Hollow on a cold autumn evening, the sky heavy with clouds that threaten rain. The village is small, its streets lined with old stone houses, their windows shuttered as if to keep something out. At the local inn, he meets Edith, an elderly woman who seems to recognize the look of a man seeking answers. Over a cup of bitter tea, she warns him of the chapel's curse. "You hear the song, and it stays with you," she murmurs, eyes clouded with memory. "It will call you back, again and again, until you have no choice but to join." Daniel dismisses her words, but notes how the other villagers avoid speaking of the chapel, their fear palpable. Something had happened here, something that had left a scar deep in their collective memory. That night, he dreams of voices humming just beyond the edge of his hearing, their song both beautiful and unbearable. The chapel is a skeletal ruin, its crumbling walls covered in ivy, its entrance a gaping maw of darkness. Inside, the air is thick with the scent of damp earth and decay. Daniel sets up his equipment, taking photographs and recording audio, his fingers trembling slightly as he presses record. Beneath the altar, he finds skeletal remains positioned in a choir-like formation, their skulls face forward as if frozen mid-hymn. The eerie precision unsettles him, and as he examines the bones, he notices strange carvings etched into them, musical notations. He presses his ear to the ground and hears something faint, like the ghost of a song carried through the stone. That night, Daniel reviews his recordings. At first, there is only silence. Then, slowly, a low hum emerges, faint, distant, yet undeniably there. As the sound grows, he feels a strange pressure in his head, a dull throbbing behind his eyes. The hum transforms into voices, singing in a language he does not recognize, yet somehow understands. Elaine, a fellow researcher, arrives the next day. She is immediately uneasy, claiming she feels watched. Daniel dismisses her concerns, but that night, he dreams of shadowy figures standing in the chapel, swaying to an unheard melody. When he wakes, his recorder is still running. The last thing it captured before the battery drained? A single, whispered phrase, "Join us." Determined to uncover the truth, Daniel and Elaine return to the chapel, armed with new recording equipment. They descend into the crypt beneath the chapel, a place untouched for centuries. The walls are lined with skulls, their hollow eyes seeming to watch their every move. They discover a hidden manuscript, its pages brittle with age. It details the chapel's origins, revealing that the monks were not priests, but wardens. Their hymns were meant to contain something beneath the earth. The final passage reads, "The song must never end, lest the choir rise again." As they leave, Elaine stops abruptly. "Do you hear that?" she whispers. Daniel strains his ears. The song is no longer confined to his recordings. It is here, now, growing louder. Edith visits Daniel, revealing the truth behind the Bone Choir. "It takes those who listen too long," she says. "Their voices become part of it." She tells him of past researchers who vanished, their equipment left behind, their bodies never found. Elaine begins to change. She hums melodies she swears she doesn't know. Her sleepwalking worsens, and one morning, Daniel finds her outside the chapel, her fingers bloody from clawing at the ground. Daniel, now obsessed, orders an excavation beneath the chapel. His team uncovers a vast catacomb filled with bones, each skull marked with musical notes. The moment they break the seal, the earth trembles. A deep, guttural hum rises from the depths, a sound that is not heard, but felt. Elaine begins singing, her voice blending with the unseen choir. Daniel watches in horror as she collapses, her body convulsing as if something is trying to take hold of her. Elaine is no longer herself. Her eyes are distant, her movements mechanical. She speaks in voices that are not her own. The villagers flee as an unnatural fog rolls in. Daniel, desperate for answers, pieces together the final verses of the song, unknowingly completing the ritual. The ground cracks open. From the catacombs, skeletal figures rise, their hollow mouths exhaling mournful hymns. The sound is overpowering, burrowing into the minds of those who hear it. Elaine stands enraptured, her body beginning to decay as she sings. Daniel tries to flee, but the choir is all around him. Their voices reach into his mind, reshaping his body, bending his will. Daniel realizes too late that he was never meant to study the choir. He was meant to lead it. The figures surround him, their bony fingers stretching toward him. His voice joins theirs, his body snapping into unnatural positions. The choir has found its new conductor. The villagers hear the final crescendo before silence falls over Black Hollow. The chapel stands empty once more, but those who listen carefully claim they hear a new voice among the dead, a sorrowful solo trapped in an eternal chorus. Months later, a new researcher finds Daniel's abandoned notes. Ignoring the warnings, they play back his final recording. As the last note fades, something shifts in the shadows. The song is never truly over. It only waits for new voices to join.